There is a YouTuber by the name of Thoughtful Atheist, and I guess that name is somewhat ironic at this point because very few people, in light of his recent videos on the subject of rape, find him to be very thoughtful. Still, we choose our own descriptions. You know, we don't base our names upon what other people think of us. We base our names upon what we think of ourselves. So I guess he thinks he's thoughtful. And I don't know what he means by thoughtful. I don't know if he means full of thought or thoughtful as in sensitive, caring, etc. Always thinking of others. That kind of thoughtful. Either way, I probably don't agree with him. He doesn't seem to be particularly full of thought, and he doesn't seem to be particularly sensitive. Certainly not sensitive. Whether or not he's full of thought, that's up for debate, but I think you'd have a pretty hard time making the case that he is a sensitive fellow. This whole idea of defending the age-old rapist excuse of, oh, she was asking for it, she was dressed promiscuous, and she was being a cock tease. You know, a woman goes into a club or a bar or some sort of similar social setting, and she's dressed promiscuously and she's behaving promiscuously, and, you know, eventually someone, you know, knocks her over the head and drags her into the parking lot and has his way with her. You know, was she asking for that treatment? I don't think she was, but I do think that she was asking for sexual attention. Why else would she be putting on a sexual display? No one gets into a pair of short shorts and wears an uncomfortable bra that pushes cleavage together and, you know, wears a bunch of makeup and gets their hair done up and then goes to a club to, you know, be alone and avoid sexual attention. If I went to a club and, you know, I was dressed sharply, as I never am. I have no clothes that are designed to attract mates because I just don't care about that whole thing. But if I did, and I went to a club and I had on like nice, like $200 shirt and, you know, was wearing all sorts of jewelry to display my wealth and was flashing cash everywhere and was wearing expensive cologne, no one's going to think, oh, that guy is not here to pick up on girls, he's just here for a good time. He's just here because that's what he likes to do. He just likes to dress like this and hang out. We're looking for mates, we're looking for someone to pass our genetic legacy on to. Reproduction is at the heart of the issue. I mean, even if you're using a condom, even if you're not having sex in a way that could be conducive to reproduction, reproduction still is the force driving you. Because you were given that sexual desire, given that need to sleep with women or men so that you could reproduce. And that kind of brings me to another point, because in terms of finding a successful evolutionary strategy to pass your genes on to another generation, rape is a good strategy. Now, that's not to say that it's ethical or that it's morally correct. That's just to say that in terms of a strategy for passing on your genetic information, it is successful. Which is almost certainly why it's still around and has always been around and is a human universal. So if we take all those factors into account, what we have here is really a woman putting on a sexual display, trying to find a mate of her choosing, and instead of that happening, a male chooses her, and if he is rejected, he doesn't take no for an answer. He is going to mate with her whether she wants to or not. Today, our moral objection to rape has a lot to do with individual rights and with empathy. You know, we see a rape victim and we say, oh, this person's rights were violated. This person went through a great ordeal, and we should have sympathy and compassion for them. That is our 21st century enlightened, perhaps, perspective. The older perspective on rape is that if you have a daughter and she is your vehicle for your genetic legacy, you want to choose who she mates with. And you know, throughout most of human history, parents decided who their children married. So if a rapist comes along and rapes your offspring, then you had no choice in the matter. You had no choice as to who carries on your genes. It also perhaps precludes the possibility of your family's social advancement, because if you have a virgin daughter, you can marry her into a wealthy family and increase the wealth of your own family. If a rapist comes along and steals her virginity, then she's now worthless as a bargaining chip. So I think it's fair to say that in bygone eras, rape was probably viewed more as a property crime. You know, there was very little in the way of empathy, and of course individual rights throughout most of human history are just something that most people wouldn't even be able to relate to as a concept. Individual rights are a fairly new idea. None of this really gets thoughtful atheists off the hook, but I do think that people should have some sort of understanding of this context if they're going to speak out on this issue on either side. You know, this is an issue where we're talking about human behavior, but no one is talking about the biology behind that behavior. No one's talking about psychology, no one's talking about evolutionary psychology, no one's talking about cognitive neuroscience, no one is talking about even psychiatry here. Everyone is just talking about morality, and to me that's a primitive way of looking at an issue. That there are two columns, and in one column falls everything that's right, and in the other column falls everything that's wrong, and to just say rape falls squarely in this column and that's the end of the discussion, and anything that is said that moves rape even a centimeter into the gray area is shunned and hated and scorned. I think that's a problem, because if we can't understand why rape exists, and we can't look at the act of rape like mature intellectual human beings, then what hope do we ever have of solving the problem? If we're going to smother the reality of rape under a blanket of hyperbole and assertion, rather than actually examining the truth, even if it might be uncomfortable for us, then we have no hope whatsoever of ever ending rape.